Good afternoon, everyone. No, good morning. Still good morning. Welcome to the Edmonton Global Pavilion at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. We're going to have a quick little session now on positioning to lead advancing Canada's hydrogen economy on the world stage. And I am thrilled to have two guests here from DMG, the conference organizers, our co-conspirators, our co-authors, Nick Samain and David Ghoris. DMG really are the force behind North America's largest hydrogen event, which this has become. And it's really been a great collaboration. But I think what's important is we want to contextualize this event within your larger global portfolio of energy events, which includes ADIPEC, one of the largest energy events in the world every year in Abu Dhabi. DMG's got a proven track record of bringing industry, capital, and ideas together on a massive scale. So join us for this conversation on how events like CHC are helping shape Canada's hydrogen narrative, attracting global investment, and building international momentum for the energy transition. So I'm going to start with sort of talking about the international aspect of what DMG does. First question, how many events again do you guys organize around energy globally and in which continents?
Well, the total, thanks, Mustafa, first of all, for having us up here today, and congratulations to you and Edmonton Global for this tremendous setup. So we're thrilled to be here. I'd get right to it to answer your question. DMG organizes 100 global events around the world, and within that, more than 40 of those are focused specifically in the energy sector on pretty much every continent around the world. And yes, that's really what we're trying to accomplish, as we could see here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, is to bring in global attention on a region, here in the greater Edmonton region, to focus on investment, to focus on new technology, to focus on bilateral trade, and adding new markets for export. And also, one of the things I'm passionate about when it comes to events is promoting, in this case, hydrogen to the general public and helping to improve an understanding, not just on what the issues and opportunities, exciting opportunities around hydrogen are, but also how that can fit into the everyday lives of people at home that may be watching this.
So what's I think really important is, you've got 40 energy events around the world, 100 events in total, but you're both from Alberta, right? Living in Alberta. I know you've emigrated to Canada, David. But being Albertans or adopted Albertans, you do 3 energy events a year in Alberta, right? Out of the 40.
Well, we actually run 3 energy events this year, which would be the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, which we're here at, Global Energy Show, which is in Calgary every year. And that event started in 1968 and has had a few different iterations since then. And a carbon capture show, which is in Edmonton in September. But aside from that, we do run the largest pipeline show in the world every 2 years, called the International Pipeline Expo, which is a fantastic event, bringing the world again to Alberta. And I think that's what we are really proud of. We're really proud of showcasing Alberta in the best possible light, bringing investment to Alberta, as my colleague Nick mentioned, but also bringing the world, showcasing what this amazing province really has to offer. Nick and I are both actually transplants. I'm from the UK and Nick from Ontario, but we feel Albertan, and we feel very proud to represent the province and the province's energy sector. So thank you, Mustafa, for the chance to actually be part of the economic development of Alberta.
And I think what's important is, we want to recognize the role that DMG plays, because not only have they created these world-class events, which are bringing people from all over the world here, but you give us a stage and a platform at your other events in other parts of the world to also be on stage and tell the Alberta story. So I think that's really important, and I wanted to acknowledge that. For international delegates considering the Canadian Hydrogen Convention or other global events, what's the value in participating in the strategic conference or even the technical conference? And how can these platforms help open doors for business and investment opportunities?
Thanks for that question. And David might have more to say on this as well, as David's really led our conference strategy. But those programs, the strategic conference, the technical conference, the special networking, including events we work with partners like Edmonton Global, are really key to creating an environment such as here, where we are here, where you can sit down to somebody that you might not know, or most of us, of course, are familiar with having Zoom conversations, and just establish a new or reestablish an existing relationship that's strengthened, and that's really fundamental to doing business. Now, when you take in the international element of that, you've got to have that multi-tiered event value proposition in place. The days are long gone of just creating a trade show. A trade show is vital. That's a foundation of every event that we run in the DMG Events portfolio as a place to trade and meet. And also an important aspect of accessibility. Not everybody can attend a conference, so we want to ensure that we have the most accessible and broadest spectrum of attendees at the trade show, and then add in multi-levels. The technical conference is such a wonderful, if anyone here has not had a chance to have a look, or some of the delegates I see here in the audience, it's really that forefront and a real international flavor. So we're getting a chance for companies and individuals, academics, to present their technology, really driving that way forward for the hydrogen sector in a practical take-home effect that's going to drive that technology and innovation. And then in the strategic conference, that just feeds right in, where we can talk about the politics of the day and where things are going, David.
Yeah, absolutely. The strategic conference is so important and really elevates the event to a whole new level. I mean, if we think about some of the speakers that we've had over the past few years, we've had Seifi Ghasemi, the chair of Air Products, or previous chair of Air Products, recently stepped down. Nancy Southern, CEO of ATCO. Last year we had President Duda from Poland. These speakers don't just come here to speak at a conference. They're here to do business. There's a reason why they come here. Basic fundamentals of events are bringing buyers and sellers together. And I think that's what we're so intent on, growing this event to continue bringing buyers and sellers. And that means bringing internationals to Alberta, bringing delegations like this year, big delegations from Japan and Korea, which have partnered so well with organizations such as Edmonton Global. And without a conference, that wouldn't necessarily be possible, because we have to have those discussions on what buying and selling clean fuels look like. Events together are great, but really the business of events is getting people together to do business and to buy and sell products, which we see as just a fuel, but it really is something that people are buying and selling.
Building on that, it's a truism I learned early in my career, which is that people do business with people. Not companies doing business with the companies, it's people who interact with people. And coming out of COVID, and given the current political and economic challenges that we're having globally, it becomes that much more important for the people to be face-to-face, to be in person, because it's very different than the digital experience. So is that something that factors into your planning and thinking when you are planning your events, and when you're being very intentional in who you're trying to get to come to the events, and how you plan for them to actually have these collisions while they're there at the events?
Yeah, Mustafa, that's really fundamental to the planning here. All of our events, including here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, we're fortunate to have a very strong executive committee that oversees and is really enables us and empowers us as an organizer to put those types of programming together and ensure those face-to-face discussions happen. I think you put that was well, very politically, economic and political pressures. Okay, so we know that whether that's the tariff words or elections that are happening or other global events that are there, we look at those head on and face those head on as an organizer, because you need to bring those to the forefront. That's what's on our minds, no matter really what sector we're in, but certainly is what's going to happen. And a bit of crystal balling, if it's me, I can scroll through and read any article I want, really to kind of tell me what I think I want to see. But when I get into the audience, and that's what I spend a lot of time doing at these conventions, just sit down and get myself in the moment and listen to people up on a stage with 700 or 1,000 of my fellow delegates there. There's a connection there, much like you get whether you're with a group of people, and then I can go meet with them. I can talk to them. I can talk to other delegates next to me that aren't the same people I'm in with day in and day out. Not that we don't love those people too, but I'm able to change my perspective, and that is very, very empowering for me as a delegate.
David, I want to actually ask you a follow-up to that, because one of the things we don't necessarily advertise, but which I think you guys do a great job, is organizing these roundtable, sort of private roundtable conversations on the sidelines of the event, and how you're able to bring government and industry together sometimes in a private setting to help unblock or open dialogue that can lead to meaningful solutions. Because when we're talking about large-scale energy, when we're talking about infrastructure, it's always public-private partnership. It's very rarely purely private. So talk about how you think about that, and you use your platform and your networks to bring those people together.
Well, we're a non-partisan organization. So, to just circle back a little bit again on your first question and go into that one, is, we love interesting things that happen in the world, and it makes for great content for our organization. Obviously, when it comes to Canada right now, we're very much in the spotlight on what energy looks like, and it makes for great conferences. It makes for great meeting places for people to come and talk to people that aren't necessarily in their echo chamber. And we welcome people at all our events, no matter what their opinions are on energy. As long as they're respectful to the exhibitors and their fellow guests, we welcome everyone. And when it comes to an event, sometimes you need more private settings where people can have discussions that they can't necessarily have out in the open, and that's relevant to anywhere, any boardroom. So we create different platforms at all our events for either private conversations, public conversations, and allow people to have the ability and platforms to be able to say what they're going to say in an era where there's so many different things to discuss. As we mentioned before, Canada's just in the news so much at the moment, and it makes a great hydrogen convention, it makes a great global energy show, it makes a great carbon capture Canada, and we thrive on that. We want to make sure that we talk about the relevant issues of the day and make it interesting.
And what's the worst sin? We know we've heard that, where you have three panelists up on stage and everybody says, "Oh, I agree with my fellow panelists." So we're not trying to get big fights up on stage, but you do need to have that diversity, David, of opinion up there. Again, back to the delegate, is that they've paid some money to sit in the chair, and they're to enjoy the conference and discussion. You've really got to deliver that broad viewpoint.
Yeah, absolutely, and that diversity of opinion means that we go forward as an industry. If we're all saying the same thing to the same people who believe the same things, we don't really necessarily drive forward. The same thing with innovation. We see it so much on our trade show floor. We see it so much in the conference that people have differing opinions, then collide during, and after the event, create partnerships, do business, and think about things that they haven't thought about individually. So it's a great point, Nick, and we welcome that diversity of thought and opinion.
Because these are big topics, because there's a lot of headwinds, if you don't force some of these conversations to happen, they won't happen on their own. And this is a challenge we're facing in Canada right now, and it's been going on for a number of years, is our inability to get large-scale energy infrastructure built. We've painted ourselves into a bit of a corner, right? So all of our oil exports were going to the U.S., with the exception of Trans Mountain Pipeline, and look how difficult that was to get completed. All of our natural gas exports until LNG Canada comes on was going to the U.S. and then with the flip of a switch or one U.S. election, all of a sudden we're in trouble, right? So the fact that you're able to continue to attract leaders of government, heads of state, leaders of industry to be in the same event at the same time and then facilitate those conversations. Again, when the people are with each other, then they can have that maybe honest conversation about what's stopping us from getting a new pipeline built to get hydrogen to the coast. Because Japan, all week for the last 2-3 years, they've been telling us, we want more of your hydrogen. But getting governments and industry, and when I say government, that includes Indigenous in Canada, at a table to talk in an amicable way about, we can do this, we just have to address these couple of points. That's really valuable, right? And that's helpful for Canada. People might not know DMG was also involved in organizing a large part of the program at the last couple COP conferences, starting with COP28 in Dubai and then last year in Azerbaijan. And the Premier of Alberta went to COP28. And it was the first time we had an Alberta Premier there, and it was a chance for Alberta to better understand how our clean energy story needs to be told to a global audience. So I think, we really appreciate the platform you provide, events in Europe, events in the Middle East, events in Asia, bringing us together. When you look forward, because you know what Alberta's potential is on the world stage, what are the biggest opportunities in the short to medium term for Alberta, and what are the biggest challenges to realizing that potential?
Great question, and just a couple comments on that one, Mustafa. First off, it's just an exciting opportunity for us as an organization. This is what we get up in the morning to do. Yes, it's our employer, and they're a great employer with DMG. But you mentioned we are a global organization, but we are. In two ways, very much tied into all of our events globally. We're briefed, we know our colleagues, we travel to many of those, don't we, David? We get around and see those markets and meet those people, meet with the governing bodies and the other governments that are involved in energy. And one consistency that we find is, back to the difference of opinion, whether it's, the issues of the day, I'll just say that, or different thoughts on how an energy economy should proceed with issues like exports or otherwise, is that when you bring people in a room like this, it is a bit of neutral territory. That's really what we've created here. You can bring people from across the political spectrum, from diverse viewpoints, from different industries that want different things. And when you put people up or on a stage, we all know each other, but people tend to want to have a level of compromise. They tend to have a level of wanting to understand the other individual a little bit more, rather than some of what we see, again, back to scrolling or reading or statements that were made. And that's really magical. It really is. If you get two people in a round table or in a room, they shake hands. You say, "Oh, can you believe so and so and so and so that they're talking about this?" And even as the perception of two leaders or two people from two different political sides of the spectrum shaking hands and sharing a laugh. That really is what gets me up in the morning, is that you can see that we are people and we have accomplished amazing things, Mustafa, as a country of Canada. We have gotten things built, and because it's really easy to get into a negative mindset sometimes. And events, I don't think they're the ultimate solution, but they play a strong part in helping that along, of bringing folks together and saying it's okay for us not to disagree, but we can build.
Yeah, and I feel that we are in such an interesting place right now. We're actually in a bit of a tailwind, which, Nick's right. We've been stuck in this negative mindset for so long, but it's so easy to forget what we have done. First gas exports out of Canada to Asia in June this year. Project Cedar LNG approved recently. Air Products building massive hydrogen plants in Edmonton. Other massive announcements being announced in the Grand Prairie region all the time. We are in a tailwind, and I think we need to stay positive. Really talk about those investments and how we can catalyze others. Thanks, Mustafa.
I have to wrap very quickly. I have 11 seconds. Thank you guys for being here. We will do shout outs to attend upcoming events in Calgary in June, back here in Edmonton in September. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the Bad Films guys and everybody who dialed in online. Our next session is going to be right after lunch. It's going to be the new phase for the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. If you're able to stick around, I would invite you to ask questions of Nick and David. Otherwise, thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.